I lived in San Francisco for close to 25 years. And when I moved there, I was young and single and childless. And I absolutely loved it. I built an entire life in San Francisco, and then I left. And I want to tell you what no one told me before I made the move from San Francisco to Sonoma County and changed my whole life. Because if you were sitting on your computer late at night researching Sonoma County from San Francisco or Oakland or Los Angeles or another city and thinking, is it really going to be worth it to move to this more rural area and change my whole life, or will I miss everything about the city I currently live in? Then this video is for you. I'm Stephanie Johnson. I'm your RealWise agent here in Sonoma County, and I help buyers all the time make this kind of transition in their own lives. But today, I'm not going to talk to you as your agent. Instead, I'm going to talk to you as someone just like you who uprooted their life and made the decision to move to Sonoma County. And I hope this information helps you decide if this move is for you. So let's get started. So I think offering a little context around my life in San Francisco might help frame this conversation. And I suspect some of these things are going to sound familiar to you if you are also an urban dweller. So as I said, I moved to the city in my 20s and I had no real responsibilities to speak of. I had to pay my rent and figure out, how to work and make my life happen there. But life was pretty simple and it was pretty fun. And then I decided to become a real estate agent. I got my license. I started a business. And then not that long after that, I started a family. And I think it was when I had kids, I know it was, that my relationship with San Francisco shifted. And it didn't necessarily shift negatively, but it definitely became a much more complex undertaking to live in that city with children in tow. Not just getting them to school and back, but also arranging care as a working mom in the city was expensive. Competition for things like signing up for Little League. Those spots go at 5 in the morning, and if you're not logged on the particular day they get released, your kid doesn't play Little League that year. Summer camps, soccer, you name it, every activity that kids have to do in that city, there's a limited supply and there's a decent amount of competition. And it started to feel kind of stressful, like another full-time job, just trying to figure out what to do with two growing boys who needed to run and play and be outside. Just finding a space for them to run around and be loud required logistics. We didn't really have a big house. We had a garden, but it was not runnable necessarily. And so all of that became this extra layer of complex planning and strategizing, and it was stressful. Then I became a single mom and the complexity got more intense, and I found myself running a household by myself, running a business by myself, and raising two amazing kids by myself in the most expensive and complex city that you could probably find in America to live in. And so I was doing it, and I actually did it pretty well. I'm a pretty logistically minded and capable person, but it was hard. And then the pandemic happened. So like a lot of you, the pandemic kind of broke something open for me. And it really did sort of halt all of the chaos and all of the activity and the intensity with which I was living my life. And it opened this space where I could then contemplate what's important to me. And I started to kind of spend a lot of time alone, like we all did, and thought about what part of me is choosing chaos and what part of me is choosing to live this sort of more intense life. And I did keep coming back to this fear, that, I love restaurants. I'm a foodie. I love SF Jazz and I want to just go over there and see a show, and that's all back and it's reopened, And there was a part of me that feared losing close connection to all those things. But the truth that I had to really reckon with was that my life with kids was very different than my life was before I had them. And our life was very complex. And I wasn't taking full advantage of all the city offered. I wasn't going to the restaurants as often as I wanted to. I wasn't headed to see music at night. I was home with my babies, In the summer, just to have access to a pool so my kids could be in the sun and burn off some steam, we would literally drive from San Francisco into Marin, 45 minutes to the Terra Linda pool to just get out of the fog and have a summer experience. And so all of that became a NASA level logistical nightmare for me. And the pandemic really made me question all of it. And I know you probably have some fears if this is something you're wrestling with. And so I'm gonna address some of the fears. And the first one is, I'm gonna miss San Francisco, or I'm gonna miss Oakland. And if you are moving from the Bay Area up here, let me tell you, it's just an hour. I'm in the city a lot. I still love it. I still love to go out to eat. I still love to go down for a jazz show. I still love to go down and see my friends. And I'm there for work sometimes too. And so, it's just an hour. It's not a big deal. And now when I go, I'm kind of like single and childless again. I get to have the experience that I had as a young person in San Francisco, and my responsibilities are relegated to a place where logistically it's much easier to be a mom. So fear number 2 is the commute's gonna kill me. I don't think I could do that, right? And so certainly if you've gotta be at a job based in the Bay Area at a physical desk more than a couple days a week, this might not be the move for you. You might wanna think about a second home, maybe going in on a second home with a friend, do something else for yourself. But if you are hybrid, like 2 days a week or less, or you work from home, then by all means, that commute, you can do it a day or 2 a week for sure. And I think to confirm that for yourself, you should come up here, spend a long weekend, leave on a Tuesday morning, because that's usually when people have to go into the office, and drive straight from Sonoma County to your office and see how it feels. And then you'll know for sure. The third fear that I hear a lot is, I don't know, is there enough to do up there? Am I gonna be bored? Again, this kind of depends on who you are, but I think if you're already contemplating this move, you're probably the kind of person that's gonna be pretty happy in Sonoma County. When I was in San Francisco, I had a tiny little garden. I couldn't grow much of anything, and it wasn't that rewarding, and it was logistically difficult because it was, downstairs through the garage. We didn't use it a lot until the pandemic happened, actually. Up here, I've got 2 acres, a big, beautiful garden, fruit trees, and a pool and a real summer experience. I have to say the upgrade was certainly worth it. No more foggy escapes from SF into Marin to use the pool. And I mean, all of Sonoma County offers this in spades. I call Sonoma County sort of bougie agrarian, and that's because it is agrarian and definitely about being connected to the land, but it's also got this like fancy edge as well that I think people from the Bay Area really like. It's like you get this feeling of living on a piece of land, but there's still some amenities that feel like home. There's still some great restaurants up here. The farmers market has amazing quality food. The wine region is very abundant. And so you're not gonna be lacking in that department at all in Sonoma County. The thing that nobody really talks about is that city life can be pretty lonely. And I have to say the pandemic sort of brought this home for me. I was particularly lonely during the pandemic, but I realized I was lonely long before that. And I think the reason is because even though you're surrounded by, 900,000 people, everyone there is very, very busy. Everyone is scheduled to the nines. People are scheduled vacations and work trips. They have demanding careers. If they have kids, their family logistics are also crazy like yours. And so trying to get on a friend's calendar just to have a dinner or to have them come over and have a drink was like 2 to 3 months in advance. And it got old. It got old waiting to figure out how to see people that I cared about. There's something about that pace. It's relentless. And you end up prioritizing your to-do list and your career and all the logistical stuff you've got to deal with. It's very noisy, and the sense of community, at least for me, kind of got lost in the shuffle. Things are not like that here. I can go to a kid's baseball game, run into somebody I know, then we sort of collaborate and decide, let's go out to dinner and take the kids out and have a beer and just hang out. And it's actually really easy to see people. People are not as scheduled or as sort of driven here. And I think that makes it easier to build community. I'm in a cookbook club here. We meet every 6 weeks. We pick a new cookbook. We get together. We all contribute one recipe from the cookbook to a meal. And we talk about food, and we talk about restaurants, and we talk about cooking, and it's a blast. I can't even see a world in which I could get 6 or 8 people together every 6 weeks in San Francisco to do something like that. People are just way too busy. I think what happens is the logistics under the surface here are just far simpler. And so it leaves people space, an opportunity to do more in the way of like connecting with friends, building community, pursuing creative interests. I just think even though I still have a big career and I'm busy, that other logistical layer has really shrunk in terms of, the time I need to spend figuring out how to make things happen. And so I really like that about living here. Life is simpler, which feels good. The sense of community here actually really surprised me. I didn't expect to feel more connected in this teeny town than I did in a city of 900,000 people. I think the other thing that was a really pleasant surprise was just how much my kids really bloomed here and how great this shift has been for them. They were in a private school in San Francisco that was pretty rigorous. I mean, that's an understatement. It was intensely rigorous. They went to school all day. My older child had a ton of homework. I felt like when he was 11 and 12 that I was sort of losing a lot of time with him because he was so busy and he had so much pressure on him to do well in school. There was a lot of work to do. And I think when we made the shift up here, the schools are very good. In fact, both my kids went to a middle school here that just was awarded a California Distinguished School Award. The academics and all the extracurriculars are all on point there, but it doesn't demand quite as much as this San Francisco school did. And I think that the kids are better for it. I think they're happier for it. In addition, my kids have a summer now. They didn't have a summer in San Francisco. We would have to go on vacation or go to Marin, as I said, to seek out a pool with some sunshine. And here we have that in spades. It's warm here. They have trails and neighbors across the lane that they play with, and a pool in the backyard and a dog to throw the ball with in the backyard, and lots of land and space to just explore and be alone and be creative even, And so I think being in this environment has really enriched their lives. They both ride mountain bikes. One of my older son is a cyclist. He rides road bikes and mountain bikes. And of course, he's in heaven here. My younger one's a mountain bike rider too. They both ride on the West County club team. And so they get to race bikes. And I just don't think that would have been an easy thing to make happen from our home in San Francisco. And so that has really given them a sense of community and athleticism. And it's just really enriched both their lives. And certainly as we talk about cost of living changes, dropping private school tuition for 2 kids for years and years and years of school meant almost $500,000 that we saved in money that we would have spent had we had them in San Francisco until both of them graduated from high school. That was a significant conversation that I had with their dad, and we just decided, this doesn't make any sense anymore. The money I was paying for private school is now in my pocket. They go to public school. The public schools here are lovely. They're really good schools in Petaluma and Sebastopol and parts of Santa Rosa and beyond. And so I would say, do your research into schools. And in fact, for my kids, I think pulling back on that a little bit, giving them a good school that doesn't run them into the ground has been really good for both their mental health. So here are some things I wish I'd done differently and that I would recommend for you if you're considering a move to this area. The first is give yourself permission and time to look at multiple towns and locations. I didn't really do this. I kind of went on a gut instinct. I realized I was tired of the city and I bought a house. I think it was the 3rd house I looked at, and I just moved. I think I might have felt that if I didn't just do it, I might chicken out. And so I just went for it. And it's fine. It all worked out. It's been great. But it could have not gone as well as it did. And I think, I got really fortunate that I had just a good gut feeling and it ended up okay. But I think if you're thinking about moving here, look at different towns. If you really want to be in the sort of southern part of the county, go spend a weekend in Petaluma, go spend a weekend in Sebastopol, go spend a weekend in Cotati, figure out which area it is that you are gravitating toward, what kind of weather you want, what kind of land or proximity to amenities you want, and then really give it some thought. I didn't really do all of that. It ended up okay, but I recommend you do. Like I said before, I would also recommend you drive the commute during the commute hour before you decide to move here. Luckily, when I have to be in San Francisco, I sort of determine my own schedule and I can leave Sebastopol at 9:30 and miss the commute. But if that's not the case for you, you should definitely try it before you move. I would also make a list of all of the amenities and things that you love about living in San Francisco and all the things that drew you there, right? And replace San Francisco with your city, whether it's Oakland, Berkeley, LA, Raleigh, wherever you're coming from. And write down all the things that you loved about it when you moved there, and then actually go back and highlight the things that you use regularly. So if you love food like I do, how often are you actually going out to eat? If you love the access to music or to concert halls, go back and say, well, how many times did we do that in the last year? And be really honest with yourself about how much you're actually really leaning into your life where you are now. And if those things are things you're doing very rarely, you can do that from a distance. If you have kids, I would say really maybe take a really hard look at what about your life there isn't working for your family. If there are things that aren't working, I think be honest with yourself about that and think about how that might shift and look differently if you move to Sonoma County. I gave you my experience. I'm sure you'll have your own unique experience in San Francisco to work from, but I would recommend you consider how this move might affect your children, either negatively or positively. If you've got littler kids, this move's really easy. I moved with a 7th grader and I was hopeful, but also ready for him to push back a bit. Luckily, he loved it here, and he's now got kind of a city kid in him and a street smartness, and he also has a country life person in him, and he loves the outdoors and being athletic outdoors. And so he turned into this kid who has an appreciation for both environments, and that's great. But you think about your kids. How old are they? Where are they in their life? What are their interests? And also, how much anxiety are they holding right now wherever you live? And can that be mitigated by a move into the country? And lastly, I recommend you talk to somebody directly who's done it. And I'd be willing to offer myself as your guide. I definitely went through all the things that you're thinking about when I moved out of the city into the country. I had all the fears. I made all the mistakes. I'm definitely somebody who could be a resource to you. So if not me, find someone who's done it and pick their brains for the information that you need. In summary, I don't regret this move at all. In fact, I'm thriving here and my kids have thrived here, and I'm thrilled with my choice to move to Sonoma County, and I'm thrilled with my life here. I still love San Francisco deeply. I'm there on the regular. I get to enjoy that city the way I did when I was in my 20s, which to me is actually one of the biggest gifts of this whole thing, is that I get to still appreciate the city I loved for much of my adult life, just in a way that actually works for me. If you're seriously considering a move to Sonoma County, you're researching and number crunching and daydreaming, then a conversation with me might be in order. My link below to book a call is on a couple places on this page. Please reach out. Let me know when you'd like to talk. I'd be glad to chat with you and to be your guide for this big transition in your life. I do no pressure consultations. You don't have to move here just because you had a conversation with me, but if a talk with me would be helpful, let's do it. And if this video resonates with you, then please subscribe to my channel. Press the bell so you're notified every time we drop a video, because we'll be dropping videos every week about life and real estate here in Sonoma County. I hope this one was helpful. Until the next one, bye for now.